Coming up on the California Underground podcast right now. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the California Underground podcast, the most trusted podcast for all things California politics. We have a lot of stuff to get to tonight. We got three big stories, including a Spanish national anthem, Alex Padilla getting arrested and making a big scene about it. And finally, we're going to talk about how California has a spending problem and they continue to increase spending when they're already facing a $12 billion budget deficit. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in live on YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, all of that stuff. Rumble, we're all over the place. So thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Make sure you leave your comments and questions. I'll get to them in a little bit. Good evening, everybody. And let's get started with the first story. So this past weekend at a Dodgers-Giants game, a Spanish singer by the name of Nezza decided that she was going to do a protest by singing the national anthem in Spanish, even though the Dodgers told her not to. Let's hop into that story right now.
Now at 5:30, a social media firestorm is brewing after a Dodger Stadium national anthem performance took an unexpected turn. A singer claims the team tried to stop her from performing the Spanish version. On the very night, fans were protesting ICE raids in Los Angeles.
Yeah, now the Dodgers are facing some backlash from critics for staying silent on this issue. Jennifer McGraw is live in Echo Park with that story for us. Jen?
Rick and Kareen, as the Dodgers take on the Giants tonight, some people think that they should also be issuing a statement about ICE. Some don't think they should get political. Others don't agree.
We are going to do the song in English today, so I'm not sure if that wasn't if that wasn't relayed.
Singer and social media personality Nezza was told she was to perform the Star-Spangled Banner in English before the game, but instead belted out a version commissioned in 1945 in Spanish. A move the organization certainly didn't seem to appreciate. Nezza posting this emotional video.
I just felt like I needed to do it. Para mi gente.
Safe to say I'm never allowed in that stadium ever again.
The Dodgers haven't commented on the recent angst over ICE in our city, and some say they should keep it that way.
Keep it sports, and when it's a community action type of response, then let the community speak.
You know, you have differences of both sides, and I think they should stay neutral about it. So, you know, everybody has an opinion, and I think it personally, but when it comes to sports, it's sports.
But others say teams should.
We're really disappointed that the Dodgers, given their influence in the city and their importance to the Latino culture, hasn't said anything publicly about the horrors that people are going through.
While they haven't released a statement, the Dodgers have said that they will not tolerate fan misconduct. The other night we saw a rowdy fan being removed holding an anti-ICE sign. However, one Dodger did speak out. Fan fave Kike Hernandez posting this, saying in part, "This is my second home and I cannot stand to see our community being violated, profiled, abused, and ripped apart. All people deserve to be treated with respect, dignity, and human rights." Manager Dave Roberts was asked about it by the LA Times, and he said, "I just hope that we can be a positive distraction for what people are going through in Los Angeles." We also reached out to the Dodgers and haven't heard back. Live in Echo Park, Jennifer McGraw, KTLA 5 News.
All right, Jen, thank you so much for that.
As a big baseball fan like myself, I'm not a fan of any politics being injected into the baseball game. I just like to watch baseball because even though I spend all of this time talking about politics, researching politics and all that stuff, I don't want to watch a baseball game and have any sort of politics, whether it's right, left, or center, anything shoved down my throat. I mean, I don't even like the idea of Pride Month because it causes fans to fight with each other over Pride Month. It puts players in like weird positions where they have to like support a cause that maybe goes against their religion. I know there's some players on my favorite team, the New York Mets, who are very religious, who aren't really all about Pride Month, but keeping politics out of baseball. And this singer's, I'd never even heard of her before, but she decided to do this protest by singing in Spanish. Now, her excuse was that this was commissioned by FDR back in the 40s. So that means we have a Spanish national anthem, that we have it in Spanish. I want to clarify here. Just because you use the fancy word commissioned, that doesn't mean that it is the sanctioned or approved version of the national anthem that you can sing. What they're talking about was around the close of the World War II, 1945, the U.S. Division of Cultural Cooperation of the Department of State worked with Music Educators National Conference to collect submissions for an official Spanish language version that could be distributed in Latin America to share United States values, aspirations, and patriotism. Peruvian American composer and lyricist Clotalde Arias took on the task of creating a truly singable version of the anthem, what remains the only official translation of the national anthem allowed to be performed. A letter to Arias from the Department of State dated May 16, 1946, mentions a contract granting her $150 for a satisfactory translation. Now, what does that mean? They're using this term like commissioned as if, oh, it's approved. It's fine. We can sing it in Spanish. We just choose not to sing it in Spanish, even though it's been written in English. Commissioned, according to Merriam-Webster, this is the exact definition from Merriam-Webster. When it comes to any art or project, it's ordered to be made in exchange for payment. So Arias, who wrote this translation, she was paid $150 to translate it. And why did they do this? What was FDR's purpose for this? Well, it wasn't to create another version to sing. It was to spread what he believed was American values with our national anthem around the world, especially Central and Latin America. I liken it to this. It was a commercial. It was basically advertising for the United States to do so. It was basically, here's our national anthem. We're giving it to you in Spanish so that you can see all the wonderful things that we stand up for. This is our national anthem. This is what America is about. So this is what it's for. I liken it to the kind of commercial you'll see on any TV, or, you know, if you're on YouTube and all of a sudden it goes from you've seen the same ad for, let's say, Cascade Dawn or like Cascade dishwasher, and it's in English. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, there's another ad on YouTube, and then all of a sudden it's in Spanish. I wouldn't say that all of a sudden that makes it the official. It's just they're doing it because they're trying to reach more people. So for her to say this was commissioned, this is part, like, people just don't know about it, that there's a Spanish national anthem, and we just never sing it. Again, this is a protest that you bring up at a baseball game, a classic baseball game between the Dodgers and the Giants. And I agree with the people who are in that video saying, just stay out of it. We come to these Dodger games, or we come to baseball games because we like to just enjoy baseball. Baseball is been around for 200 plus years in America. Like, this is part of our culture. It's the American pastime. And there's no reason to insert politics into it and to make it into a big political thing. I know they want the Dodgers to speak out about the ice raids. Now, another point I want to make was, this isn't the first time that the Dodgers have gone through a controversial issue that they didn't really want to be a part of. If you remember, a couple years back, they were planning on hosting the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And if you don't know who the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are, they are a LGBTQ plus I drag queen group that dresses up in comical, or not comical, but sort of outlandish, like nun costumes, and basically making a mockery of Catholicism. And they were invited to Dodger Stadium for some part of Pride Month. And there was enormous backlash, because I guess they forgot that if most of their fan base, or a lot of their fan base, is Hispanic, they must have not made the connection that a lot of Hispanics are actually very Catholic as well. So if you're going to bring in a group that is making a mockery of your religion, that's not going to go over so well. So the Dodgers, I don't know why they couldn't pull the plug. I don't know why maybe they just sat there in awe about it. But either way, the Spanish national anthem, it was commissioned in 1945 as sort of an ad. It was sort of a commercial to Central Latin America to kind of spread American values from FDR. So for people to say that, oh, FDR approved this and all that, it was part of a council. They commissioned and they paid someone to do the translation. And that's basically it. That's really the only reason that there even is a Spanish national anthem out there. It's not an official, I don't think it's officially recognized as an alternative national anthem. We have one national anthem, which is in English. So Nezza, and I don't think this is something that they wanted to, I don't think the Dodgers wanted this to get out there and cause more controversy for them as well. And the Dodger fans who are like, we keep this all out of baseball, I agree with them. And let me know what your thoughts are about that. Let me put it down in the comments or put it down in the chat as well. Because when I heard this, I was like, this is more people trying to rebel at the wrong place in the wrong time. You're not really winning hearts and minds. All right. I want to talk about our next story. Democrats must have all grown up as theater kids because they're all very dramatic and they're all looking for their moment to shine. And Senator Alex Padilla is no exception. He must have taken lessons from someone like Cory Booker, who's also very dramatic. Because last week, if you haven't heard, Senator Alex Padilla was not arrested. He's manhandled by Secret Service and FBI for crashing a DHS presser with Kristi Noem. And it got all over the internet and it went super viral. Let's watch the video now about, just so you can have some context. If you haven't seen it, it's been around for the past couple of days and that's all they've been talking about. But we're also going to talk about sort of the fallout and Padilla's reaction to it. Spoiler alert, he's not letting it go and he is running with this for as much as he possibly can.
So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here. I did not know. There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right?
So that's the video. That's Alex Padilla getting dragged out and put in handcuffs for crashing a presser. Now there's conflicting reports. He's saying, I mean, he did shout himself that he was Senator Alex Padilla. He wasn't wearing his Senate pin, which designates that he is a senator. It's a pin that's given out just to senators. He didn't have that. Regardless of all of that, I think you don't crash into a DHS presser when you're the senator, because you know why? As a senator of the United States, you have access to get to Kristi Noem. You have a way to sit down and talk to her. There is a way you can contact her office and say, I'd like to sit down with Kristi Noem and talk about everything that's going on and have an adult and professional conversation about it. Instead, Alex Padilla marched into a presser, acted a fool, got pushed back because I couldn't. Let me tell you that I follow politics a lot, but I'm pretty sure outside of like the big senators that are out there, I don't think I'd be able to recognize probably more than 80% of the senators if they passed by me on the street. I wouldn't be able to, like, if you just walked by me as a senator, I wouldn't be, oh, that's a senator. I know I got to, stand back and like, that's a senator. And most of these guys who are Secret Service, they're probably just trained in reactionary tactics. If someone's barging in, they're shouting, they're causing a disturbance, they're marching towards Kristi Noem. Their instinct and their training is to stop what they believe or perceive to be a threat. And again, if you're not well versed in politics and you're not up on it, and a guy comes crashing in, he has no identification, he just yells something, obviously they're going to have a reaction. And the reaction was, okay, you're causing a disturbance. We got to take you out. This could be a security threat. But again, I come back to this whole thing of like, you could have gone through like the professional route. You could have gone through the mature adult route, which is you could have said, I want to sit down and talk to Kristi Noem in DC, where we both work, and it's not very far from each other. But instead, I'm going to come crashing into this presser and make a big scene. Now, obviously, he went viral. He's gotten a lot of attention. It was all over the place. Everyone was talking about it. The whole thing was, well, if they can do this to a sitting senator, then imagine who they can do this to. It's more of this fear mongering of, well, if they can do it to a sitting senator, then imagine what they can do to you. And I remember not too long ago, I thought I was told like nobody's above the law, and treating senators like there's some sort of royalty is not really in our American values. But here he is appearing on CNN discussing that and whether it really was his intent to go viral or not.
I'm sure you've seen the DHS spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin posted that you, quote, tried to manufacture a viral moment.
Nothing could be further from the truth. Again, what are the odds? I was in a federal building, a couple of doors down, awaiting a briefing from Northern Command, because I still believe the federalization of the National Guard troops and deployment in Los Angeles was not only unlawful, unjustified, but counterproductive. It's what's escalated the tensions in Los Angeles. The sending in the Marines, as a result, like things have been quieting down day after day. So why do you escalate by sending in the Marines? And an opportunity to ask a question, maybe get answers that DHS, including the Secretary, will not provide in committee hearings in the Senate, will not respond to the letters that we've sent inquiring. There was an opportunity to ask a question and do my job as a senator, right? Do my job as a senator in questioning a cabinet secretary.
Well, it was obviously to go viral. Like, I think we can, I think we can be pretty clear that it was to go viral. There's no question that you wanted this so that it would go viral so you could make a big scene. Again, you wouldn't have marched into a presser like that and caused a scene if you didn't want the scene to go viral. It's sort of like LaMonaco did the thing in like the New Jersey facility. She made a whole big scene. It's like AOC showing up in her whole viral scene. And then it's like Maxine Waters showing up to check on David Huerta in the ICE facility. Like these are all like manufactured publicity stunts that aren't really changing the narrative. They're not really accomplishing anything besides getting that viral moment. And I want to say something about Alex Padilla real quick. Alex Padilla was appointed by Gavin Newsom to be senator. He took over for, was it Barbara Boxer, who had been there forever? So he was appointed because Barbara Boxer had stepped down. And he was appointed only on the basis of, well, not according to Gavin Newsom, but one of the biggest reasons was that he was the first Latino senator from California. That was the big thing. Alex Padilla was appointed. Now, he's won every subsequent election since then, because once you're an incumbent, it's impossible to get you out. So he was gifted the Senate seat, and he's going to probably be there forever. And who knows if he's ever going to move on to something else like governor or president or anything like that. But he was gifted this seat. And now he's trying to up his profile. He's trying to make a big deal about this. There is an article that came out recently in the California Globe that shows that not only was he not trying to go viral, but he also used this to go ahead and try and fundraise off of it. He has an email that says, "I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half dozen crittles." No, that's part of what he said. But he did send out an email basically talking about what had happened to him and used it as a fundraising opportunity. So even though he says it wasn't to go viral, he's definitely upping his status, basically his personality, and fundraising off of it as well. But not to be outdone, not to let it go so quickly. He had to get one more moment, one more dramatic moment on the Senate floor about his harrowing experience. I apologize. This clip does have some music in the background, but either way, you'll get the idea.
I was forced to the ground. First on my knees, and then flat on my chest. And as I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I being detained? Not once did they tell me why. I pray you never have a moment like this. But I will tell you, in that moment, a lot of questions came to my mind. First of all, where are they taking me? Because I know I'm not just being escorted out of the building. Am I being arrested here? And what will a city already on edge from being militarized think when they see their United States Senator being handcuffed just for trying to ask a question?
Very dramatic. How moving to say that on the again, he probably took lessons from Cory Booker, because that sort of drama definitely comes from someone like Cory Booker. But again, you tried to ask a question in a way that was confrontational. It was taking a lot of Secret Service and law enforcement off guard. A lot of people didn't know who you were. You just came barging in. Stephen A. Smith, who is, I guess, I don't know, they keep saying he wants to run for president in 2028 or something like that. He keeps getting more and more involved in politics. He had this take to say about Alex Padilla.
Here you have this Senator, Alex Padilla. Can Kristi Noem speak? Could you have waited till she finished to ask your questions? To shout your questions? You are a senator, right? You couldn't wait? So that was just you out of control because you were just losing it, huh? You, a United States Senator, couldn't compose yourself and let the head of Homeland Security finish her thoughts before you asked the question. Couldn't do that, huh? Couldn't do it, huh?
Right. He couldn't wait. He had to create this scene. And I want to bring this up real quick because I think it's worth repeating over and over again. Democrats are making this an enormous issue, and it's still not a winning issue for Democrats. And I'm not sure what some people have their theories. Some people want to say, like, they have all these different theories why they keep doing this, but it has not been a winning theory. This was CNN. They talked about it. Corner analysis of American National Election Studios. Immigrant voters who favored Democrats by 32 points on immigration policy in 2020 now trust Republicans more on the issue by 8 points, a staggering 40-point swing. Trump's share of the immigrant vote has steadily increased from 36% in 2016 to 39% in 2020, and now to 47% in 2024. Perhaps even more telling, this is all from Newsweek, is more telling how immigrant voters feel about immigrants who are in the country illegally. In 2020, their net favorability stood at 23 points. This year, that has flipped to -6, a 29-point decline in support for undocumented immigrants among immigrants themselves. So even immigrants themselves are turning on this issue. So if Democrats think they are winning immigrants on this issue, they are on the losing side of this issue. So it doesn't matter how many viral moments, how much you cry, all of that stuff, you're on the losing side of this. The American people and those who are voting are not on your side about this. Let's take a minute to check how the chat is doing, how people are doing in the chat. Something went on with Instagram. That's odd. I thought we were live on Instagram, but I guess something happened. So anyway, sorry about that to Instagram viewers. YouTube's still up. Someone said, I wish we had a single congressman or senator like Thomas Massey in California. I would agree. Like Thomas Massey, I know some people don't like him because he disagrees with President Trump, but I love Thomas Massey because he speaks his mind and he's pretty straightforward. And he seems to be right about a lot of things. Someone else said it was a press conference, speakers talk, then it's Q&A. Padilla was unhinged and unprofessional. He looked menacing. He was rude, talking over Noam. The security did their job. Yeah, it's, again, somebody comes barging in out of nowhere, just barges in, starts screaming something and charging towards Kristi Noem. They're all trained to do one thing, which is stop and neutralize the threat. And that's exactly what they did. And, you know, he wasn't, he said he yelled his name. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I don't know if that's good enough for security because I guess you could walk in anywhere and say you're senator of something. What if he was, you know, just a local state senator or something like that? Like a lot of people, you don't know every single politician who's out there. So for him to just be like, everyone should know who I am. I'm Alex Padilla. Kind of presumptuous. You know, there's decorum, there's ways to act. And Alex Padilla did not act like he should have. All right. So I do want to get to the big story tonight. California has a spending problem. And it's bad. We know that. California really has a spending problem. This year, they are increasing spending from the previous year. And it's gone up. They are proposing a $325 billion budget. That's what the legislature has passed. That is a 10% increase from the budget last year. There is some sticking points about this, but we'll get into the video and then we'll comment and talk all about what is happening and what's going on with the budget. And, you know, are people tired of it? Are people tired of the overspending? So let's get into that video.
From the state assembly,
the measure passes
to the state senate. A majority of Democratic lawmakers in both houses approved their proposed state budget, a $327 billion spending plan.
We have to make sure that we are meeting the basic needs of Californians. And I think we're doing that in a responsible way.
Some really important investments in housing, in higher education, in wildfire prevention and public safety.
But the big issue front and center, whether to go along with the governor's plan to pause the state's expansion of Medi-Cal publicly funded healthcare by 2026 for undocumented immigrants. Newsom's plan also calls for undocumented people already on Medi-Cal to pay a $100 monthly premium.
We submitted a balanced budget.
At his budget presentation last month, Newsom said his proposals on Medi-Cal were a last resort, but he added he felt he had no choice in order to help close California's projected $12 billion deficit.
Investments that we are making that we simply cannot continue to make.
But Democratic legislative leaders put forth their own proposal that, like Newsom's plan, would pause Medi-Cal health care coverage for undocumented people. But unlike Newsom's plan, the Democratic legislative leaders' plan would reduce the governor's proposed monthly premium for the undocumented from $100 per month to $30 per month.
Our budget does continue to keep our promises to ensure that our most vulnerable Californians are safe and healthy.
That's what several Democrats argued, but other Democrats, including Fresno Assemblymember Joaquin Arambula, himself a medical doctor, argued the latest proposed budget does not do enough to protect the health of undocumented people in California.
Healthcare is a human right for all, regardless of immigration status, and that we can't be party to creating a two-tiered healthcare system that sees others as less than.
He was the lone Democrat to vote no on the budget proposal, even as other Democrats expressed similar concerns.
Even the suggestion that we slash programs on the backs of immigrants who, let's be clear, pay taxes is not acceptable.
Republicans, meantime, point to a new statewide poll this week indicating 58% of Californians are against the state funding health care for undocumented people.
The problem is it's not affordable. We just simply can't afford it.
When that originally was proposed, it was said it would be a $4 billion cost. It's $12 billion. It is clearly not sustainable.
And despite those concerns, the proposed budget passed primarily by a party line vote. Important to note, though, this is not final. Over the next 2 weeks, the governor and the legislature are expected to negotiate some final changes before the start of the new fiscal year on July 1st. Reporting at the state capitol, covering local news that matters, Tom Wallace, Fox 40 News.
If you're a man who makes at least 150,
don't need that ad. All right. So obviously the biggest sticking point that I've brought up on this show numerous times now is the disastrous promise by Gavin Newsom that they were going to provide, and they did, Medi-Cal to all undocumented citizens here in the state. And I've said this before, and it's worth repeating. That was less than a year between inaction and when they had to start borrowing money from their own coffers to pay to even keep it going. It started as $2 billion a couple months ago that they needed it. Within a couple weeks, they needed $6 billion to keep paying for this. And this has become one of the biggest drains on our budget right now. So there are Democrats who are saying, we need to continue to pay for this regardless. We just need to figure it out, whether we need to borrow more money, whether we need to, make more bonds or whatever. We need to figure it out, and we need to keep paying for it. Now, as sort of running the numbers, this is probably why Medi-Cal for illegal immigrants is causing a deficit. It currently covers approximately 1.6 undocumented immigrants with an estimated annual cost of $8.5 billion from the state's general fund. This was from last year, 24 to 25. Basically, the monthly cost to continue Medi-Cal for undocumented citizens is $708 million a month. $700 million, almost $1 billion a month to provide Medi-Cal for undocumented citizens in the state of California. And I want to contrast this fight with something else that is interesting, because this is where tribalism and political tribalism really takes over. When it's something you want, it's a human right and it has to be paid for, and damn the torpedo, we'll just go straight ahead and we're going to keep firing on all cylinders. And it doesn't matter if the numbers and the evidence is in front of you that this is causing a drain, it's causing a deficit. The state is facing a $12 billion budget deficit, which they can't figure out how to close. They want to increase spending, not cut spending, to figure out how to balance the budget. But I want to compare it with this idea of, if it's something you like for your team, you will figure out ways to fund it and make it happen. And if not, then they will not figure out how to do it, and they will make all sorts of excuses. What I'm talking about is Prop 36. Prop 36 was passed by a large majority of Californians, an overwhelming majority of Californians. It won with 70% approval from Californians. Every county in California voted for Prop 36. It won by a landslide. And I've said this, it's very hard to get Californians all to agree on something, but the fact that every single county agreed on Prop 36 shows you that the overwhelming amount of people in California want Prop 36 to happen. Gavin Newsom, who hated Prop 36 from the beginning, his initial budget had no funding for Prop 36. Now, this budget does have a little bit more, but not a lot, not what it needs to get done. So Prop 36, something that was approved by the voters by 70%, overwhelmingly, every county in the entire state voted for Prop 36. Yet people are scratching their heads and going, I don't know how we're going to pay for it. And we're talking about, I'm saying this in the grand scheme of, a $325 billion budget. It's a couple $100 million to fund Prop 36 just for personnel and stuff like that. Like there needs to be more people involved with Prop 36. It's going to cost more money for law enforcement. Compare that a couple $100 million for probably the entire year to make this happen. Compare that with almost $1 billion for undocumented free healthcare for undocumented citizens. Now that is a human right, and we got to figure out how to pay for it. If we have to borrow into oblivion, if we have to borrow against bonds and all this stuff and borrow against our own money, we'll do it. It doesn't matter. We'll find the money. But when it's something that the people voted for overwhelmingly, just because you don't like it, like Gavin Newsom didn't like it, Democrats hated it. They hated the idea of Prop 36, calling them out for all of the problems that were going on with public safety and crime and everything like that. We can't figure out how to pay for it. Hands up. I don't know. We can't figure out how to pay for Prop 36. That's ridiculous. And they start blaming the people who drafted the ballot measure. Oh, you didn't say how we were going to fund it. You just said approve or not approve. And so that's the blame. Get rid of it. But when it was something like this, that was an executive order by Gavin Newsom, not something the people voted on, to give free healthcare to undocumented citizens. And remember, this was executive orders from Gavin Newsom back to Jerry Brown. It slowly got to this point. It's a human right. It's a human right, and we have to figure out how to pay for it. Hook, line, and sinker. That's the bottom line. So we've got to figure out how to pay for it. So I wanted to say those two examples of when you have something that people on your team, when they support something that's for the benefit of their team, cost is no option. When it's something you hate, you're going to figure out how to neglect it or not pay for it. But also what's more important, I think, here is that I think the California Democrats are getting more and more out of touch with Californians. And I think they've gotten to the point where they don't think their actions have any consequences and that people aren't going to pay attention. I think they've gotten to this point where they think we're going to rule this state forever. We can basically do anything. We're basically royalty at this point. We're untouchable. Prop 36, which passed by a Democratic vote by a large margin. And then this PPIC, which is Public Institute of California, this is the poll that everyone has been talking about that came out most recently. And this is the part I want to show you. Californians have a very favorable view of immigrants, but opinions have shifted recently. When asked in 2024 whether immigrants are a benefit to California because of their hard work and job skills or a burden because of their use of public services, 60% of Californians say immigrants are a benefit, down from 66% in June 2023 and 78% in 2021. So it's going down. 4 in 10 Californians say the border situation has reached a crisis level. 2/3 of residents think border policy should focus on ensuring the process for who is admitted is more efficient, while about a third say it should focus on blocking migrants crossing the border, which is insane that is being mentioned here in California. That this is really something that, like, this issue is, again, I know we just talked about it with that last story, but it's not an issue that is winning for Democrats. They are not winning on this issue. People are turning against them on this issue, yet for some reason, they're doubling down on issues that are not really favorable to them. Just to bring up again, the 58% of Californians do not approve of giving free health care to undocumented citizens. That in itself should probably be enough of a wake-up call to California Democrats that this is an unpopular opinion. This is an unpopular policy. That 58% of Californians do not approve of this. Right? This is not a simple majority. This isn't 48%. This is 58% of Californians do not approve of this. There was one more story that I did want to get to. Basically, I'm going to show this right now. This is from a blog talking about spending in California. So this is another PPIC And this is another poll conducted by the Public Policy Institute of Californians. It says a whopping 55% now opt for lower taxes and fewer state services, a turnabout from pre-2023 trends toward increased taxation. This stands supported by 86% of Republicans and 62% of independents. Mind you, that is really important. If independents are swinging this way, 62% of independents, just to break it down and put the numbers out there, yes, 48% of the state is registered Democrat, and the rest is 25% or so, like 25 around that number is Republicans, 25% is independents, with the rest kind of going to like different parties. If independents are breaking this way towards more fiscal responsibility as opposed to increased taxation, that's a whole stance. That is a big swing of voters who used to break for Democrats, but now if taxation and spending is a big thing, it may break another way. Let's see. This is stems from the dissatisfaction with the state's $11.9 billion budget shortfall, described as a big problem by 43%. Disinclination to borrow $7.1 billion from the rainy day fund. 56% find it a bad idea. Is a demand for responsible budgets. Faith in government is eroding at an alarming rate. A staggering 90% believe the federal government wastes tax dollars, and 84% says it operates for a privileged few special interests. In California, support for Gavin Newsom hovers at a tepid 44%, while the legislature registers at 41%. Backing for shrinking the federal government, 57%, blah, blah, blah. So there is something happening here in California. And whether it's going to start bearing out and it's going to start bearing in a change of the state, we have yet to really see. We did see it in 2024. A lot more counties did break for President Trump. They went red as opposed to blue, but as they were before. We flipped 3 or 4 assembly seats from Democrat to Republican. And by we, I mean Californians just in general. We flipped those seats out, got rid of Democrats. Maybe the tide is shifting here in California. Maybe. If you have a majority of people who do not approve of free healthcare for illegal immigrants, 4 in 10 think that the border crisis is a problem. That's almost up to 50% of people. Almost a third think that there needs to be stricter enforcement of what's going on at the border and who gets let into the border. If that many people are thinking that, let's see, what was it? What was the number? I just want to pull this again. 55% now want lower taxes and fewer state services. That is a big turnaround here in California. And the California budget that has been proposed, and I wanted to just focus on this one issue of Medi-Cal for undocumented citizens. There's a whole bunch of a slew of other things that are in there, but I didn't want to bore everybody with the details, because this was, I really think, the pressing thing. This is the sticking point. And it's not finalized yet. The governor still has to figure it out. Legislature still has to figure it out. But they keep hanging their hats on these issues that are not winning for them. Polls are showing everything's going in the wrong direction. And like I said, I don't know if this is a foreboding of what's going to happen in California. I don't know if this shows that there is a changing tide, if there is a changing attitude amongst voters to slowly start rolling these things back. We have yet to see. But increasing spending at a time when $12 billion budget deficit exists is not a good look if you're a California Democrat. So that's our show for today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who is joining us live on the chat, trying a new time at 7 p.m. We're going to try some different time. We'll try at 8 o'clock. Maybe there'll be another episode this week. Who knows? Maybe we'll do another bonus episode this week. So we're trying some things out. But thanks everyone for tuning in live wherever you are. And if you like this show, make sure you like, share, subscribe, review, comment. All that stuff helps with the algorithm. And the best way to support this show that is 100% free, well, you can support the show by going and checking out our shop. If you go on our Instagram, you can go to our Teespring shop and check out something like this. Stop brownouts, support nuclear. You're welcome, Albie Josh, and I hope you enjoyed the show. This is a great show. I like this one. Stop brownouts, support nuclear, because we need more nuclear power here in California. Or the 100% way that is free that you can support the show is you can share it with someone who you believe will enjoy it. And on that, we'll see you on the next one. Later.